A recent analysis of police data by WGBH did provide, I think, a really disturbing insight into how blacks being pulled aside more frequently than their white counterparts. Here's City Councillor and mayoral candidate Andrea Campbell with her thoughts on the matter.
I think right here in the city of Boston in particular, there is this sentiment that we are excellent in everything we do, not just policing, but everything else. That we are the model for folks to look to in terms of our community policing. And I say, while we may be doing an excellent job with respect to some aspects of our policing, we still have bias in our system as well. I know this personally, growing up in the city of Boston. I know this as an elected of a district that is predominantly a district of color. And I know it from the data.
And that data shows that 69% of people stopped by Boston police officers through the department's field interrogation and observation program most of last year were black, even though black residents comprise only a quarter of the city's population. One of our viewers says that as a parent of black children, I advise them to comply to police during an interaction. Their response has been, even if we do that, the chances of us getting hurt are still high. This has left me feeling helpless and out of options as a parent. So, what can be done for parents who have these deep concerns? They have these conversations with their children. They tell them to follow the rules, and their children are saying, but if we follow the rules, we're still going to get in trouble. What's the right response for a parent in a situation like this?
Well, I can jump in. So for me, I'm not a parent, so I wouldn't even begin to think about the ways in which you have to sort of talk to your children. But as a young Black woman who is sort of leading these conversations between departments and communities, the numbers are there. We work with really great departments who are actively working to make sure that their departments are equitable and that they're following the right procedures and that trainings are up to date and that the disparities that they're seeing are sort of accounted for as they move through this process of transparency and accountability within communities. What we do know is that that doesn't always stop the sort of national conversation and the national outcomes that we are seeing that are sort of magnified because of a local context that gets the press and the attention. And so what we've been telling our chiefs and what I work with communities to understand is that you have to be able to make sure that while you are calling for reform or reimagination or any of those things to public safety, that community members are actively seeking out those resources that are community-centered, community-led, community-driven, and are putting those infrastructures in place so that when you are working with the departments and still seeing these data disparities, that you actively are saying, we see that you are making these strides, but it's not enough. And so here's what we're going to do in the interim while you all are still doing that. So I would say, it's not easy to be a young Black person. Sort of, how do you navigate this? How do you join the space? How do you join the fight? And I think for me, the hope is that while we are sort of in the fight for our lives as young Black people, there are people like me, there are people who are doing this work within the internal systems to make the change, while the folks outside who are doing the protesting, who are doing sort of the advocacy work, are really signaling and challenging people to make these real-time decisions that are really deeply impacting us. And hopefully those can stop the bleeding.